All right, what's up, guys? Jeremy Conn here. It's Lowdown, Pickdawgz.com. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, hit that notification button as well. It tells you every time one of these gets posted. It was funny. It's the first time one of my callers, what's up, Trippy, if he's watching, called in and told me he was watching these in the morning. I guess he's trying to bust my balls. I don't know. But yeah, it's seeing some of the local guys pick up on it because they're probably going to, you guys will hear some of the same stories they've heard for years. And I can seem repetitive, but doing radio every day, you know, your audience flips over, and I don't want to take it for granted that somebody's tuning in and, you know, doesn't understand how this whole thing goes. So basically, I like to go over the weather for the day's slate. I have more information the day of, but I do record this the day before, so sometimes I'm not privy to what's gone on that day, and you'll hear me talking about 2 days ago just because I like to talk about how things went and where my mind was on the bets that I placed. I had one of those weird days the other day where, what did I go? I went 5-1, and there were a bunch of people that bought my one loss, which sucks. You know, like you go, oh man, I had this great day, and then you look, it's like, oh, why did everybody buy that one? But it's how it goes sometimes. So, a couple of things I wanted to bring up real quick before we get to the games and the weather. And as I've said to some of you guys, because I record early, things change, pitching matchups. I'll try to respond the next day if something drastic changes. When I give out leans, those aren't games I'm necessarily betting. And when I give you the free play, that's something I'm going to be on. Now, day of, if something changes, it doesn't mean that how do I want to put it? I would never go the opposite way of anything that I say on here. But there are times that things change and I'll scratch the bet off the day of. But so far, I think like most of the stuff I've given out here, day of has been fine. We had that issue with the Red Sox and Reds. I had a buddy who was talking about FanDuel having what was it, a boost or something on Nerfies and Yerfies or whatever. That's no runs in the first inning. Yes, runs in the first inning for people out there that don't play those. And I told him, I said, everybody who's going to bet the Red Sox, I would stay away from it. I would go with Seattle and Kansas City. And that one hit. But God, did that Red Sox game get out of hand quick. Man, it was just ugly. And it was even so much so that the Red Sox scored so many runs. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Scored so many runs that it turned into, like, I'm not even blaming Garrett Crochet for giving up a couple runs, because if I had a 7-run lead, yeah, I'm going to pound the hell out of the strike zone. You get one, you get one. But yeah, so that was a weird one. I did go 1-2 on Monday, and I saw somebody posted an 0-3 under the message of today's today's podcast. Or now I'm doing this. That would be Tuesday's podcast. Sorry, this is Wednesday's podcast. But yeah, posted 0-3, and that's why I just want to clarify, like, hey, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm trying to give you as much information as I can on day of. It does not mean that I'm placing those bets. But I did get burned on that Orioles under. And it's one of those things where when games go to extra innings, if you hit the over in extra innings, you should feel lucky. If the under still stays appropriate, you should feel lucky as well. When you handicap a game, you're not handicapping for overtime, extra innings, any of that stuff. So when those things happen, there's a lot of luck involved. I mean, there's a ton of luck. And I know, like, most handicappers don't want to admit it. Some guys don't like doing write-ups, because if I did a write-up saying I think the Rangers are going to beat up the Orioles today, take the over, and the Orioles beat up the Rangers and it goes over the total because of that, well, my research wasn't great, but I still hit the bet. I'm not a results guy, if that makes sense. I feel like if you're doing the things the right way, it works itself out in the end. That's why I try not to get too high, too low on big wins, big losses. I've had both, and anything I can say here to help people learn from my mistakes so they don't make the same ones, I'd love to do. But basically on this podcast, I'm going to tell you where the weather is. I'm going to talk about pitching matchups, some things I like, things that I notice, and things that I like to attack. One of the things I've said to you guys, I like going after pitchers in their second start. Really worked well against Frankie Montas, coming off the IL, I mean. So if you have a long-term IL stay, you've been out for 2 months, a year, whatever, I like attacking you in that second start. And one of the reasons why is, I don't have like statistical data to break down for you, but it's been very kind to me over the years. One of the reasons why we do this is because when you come back, anybody can tell you, a long layoff from playing your sport, your first time back, you are sore, and you're trying to figure out that muscle, what hurts, what doesn't, and going into the next game, I think it can hamper people. Max Scherzer was fine, but then, gave up some runs. And then, we're going to look at Evaldi today. I'll talk about that in just a second. and just target these guys. And it's something I've done for years, and I feel like it's been really successful. And you'll hear me talk about that as well. Guys that are coming off the IL. Now, I did it earlier against Logan Gilbert, and he made me look like an idiot. But that's part of the game, I guess. And one of the other things I'll say is you won't hear me curse often on here because I talk like a sailor outside of work. But when this thing's in front of my face, I'm pretty good at not cursing. I got to see if I can do both and juggle it. Because the Orioles game, what was that, on Monday? It was 3-3 headed into extra innings, and I had an under of 8.5. And you saw the fireworks in the extra innings, like a weird one where you score 3 in one portion. Was it 3 or 4? And then they score the same amount in the bottom portion. But we lost that one. I was on the Pirates big. I like them a lot. And my weather play was you guys can always check the records and look at stuff on the site. I think everything's up to date. I noticed when we made the switch for the new site that some of my WNBA plays hadn't come over. So, and I was 4-0 when I started with the company. So I definitely want those 4 wins sitting there because it changes my percentage greatly. WNBA and baseball has been very kind to me, and we're going to continue playing those games and going after it and looking at the right spots. But one of the things I want to bring up before I get into the games, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about it. I'm an open book. I'm very honest to a fault. I'll probably tell you things I shouldn't tell you. But today is an interesting day because today is the day I did the Big Mo Show. And for people who don't know, I've talked about him on here, Mo Gaba. That's Mogaba. He is a Baltimore legend, and he called my radio show, and I befriended him. He was 9 years old. We didn't know who he was, what he was, but it was this outgoing kid. And I like taking the kids' calls because they're either really good or really bad. And he was a damn superstar. So one of these days I'll grab the talking bobbleheads I had made of him so you guys can hear his laugh, at least through this mic. But my wife's sleeping right now, so I'm not going to start pushing buttons and my dogs wake up. But on July 2nd, we did the Big Mo Show. On June 30th, I brought a contract to him to sign. I shared some of these videos on social media. I know it's on my Facebook page right now, but there's a YouTube. It's an NFL Network piece that's on YouTube called Gift of Gaba that I'm in, that I'm very proud of. Mo won this after he had died. He won 2 sports Emmys on the NFL Network piece. He also won one on an ESPN piece. And the kid was just special. So he was blind his whole life. He battled cancer 4 times before he finally succumbed. And why I'm talking about him, on July 2nd, 5 years ago, was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Best thing I've ever done in radio, period. I gave that kid my show. I was doing a night show. And I've talked about this before, but we had a ton of celebrities. We didn't book a single guest. And I used every... Sorry, word. I don't like asking people for favors, but I used every favor and embarrassed myself as much as I could to get him as many things as I could get him before he passed. I had Stone Cold Steve Austin calling him every Sunday. I had Robert Downey Jr. send us a video. And again, this isn't all me doing it. This is friends of friends and things like that. We got all the voices of SpongeBob because that was his favorite show to do a personalized Mo video. So, it means a lot to me. And July 2nd is something I'm always going to think about when it comes down to it. Because when he passed, it was tough. I got to induct him in the Orioles Hall of Fame. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. He's got 2 talking bobbleheads of him. One is the reason he's in the NFL Hall of Fame is he was the first kid to call a draft pick in Braille. And thank God he got Ben Powers. I tell him that all the time, that lucky he didn't get Kamamafu Atu Mahala. I don't know how you read that in Braille, but it would have been difficult. But yeah, I missed the kid, and he was just special. So if you guys get to see that video, I'm sure you won't have a dry eye at the end, and you'll see how impressive he was. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I hope you guys check that out. At the end of this month, it'll be a little bit more difficult because July 29th is the anniversary of his death. So, and that's Mo Gaba Day here in Baltimore, where weird things happen. And I'll tell you this, last thing I'll tell you, and then I'll get to the plays, I promise. So they had Mo Gaba Day, and I was in the Outer Banks with my family. It was planned ahead of time. And Mo Gaba became friends with Trey Mancini, the Orioles first baseman, who ended up battling colon cancer. So as soon as he got it, Mo's calling him to check in on him. So they had this bond, right? So Mo passes, and the first Mo Gaba Day that they have the next year, Trey Mancini's back from his cancer diagnosis and the health issues he had. Trey Mancini's not fast, and I swear to you, it's just so weird talking about this. He hits a long fly ball to right field. The outfielder for the Rays, I believe, had his sunglasses on his hat for whatever reason. And as he's backing up looking for the baseball, he loses it in the sunlight. and the ball bounces and rolls as far away from him as it could possibly roll. And Trey Mancini hit an inside the park home run that day. It looked like he was carrying a refrigerator on his back. Sorry, Trey, if he ends up seeing this, because guy's a great guy. But it's just one of the coolest moments, and I just remember tearing up watching it as it happened. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because, I don't know, man. The kid was special and some weird things that go on. Let's talk some baseball. So maybe I'll put in a little note so you guys can fast forward to me pontificating for 10 minutes. And now I'm going to put all the baseball stuff in about 5 minutes. Let's start it off. All right, game one. I want to talk about the Padres at the Phillies. There's no wind really, a little bit blowing out towards right. It's Dylan Cease versus Mick Abel. 80 degrees. It feels like it's 90. I've been watching this a little bit. Dylan Cease has had these games where, I mean, he gives up a couple runs. He'll put guys on. His whip is really high. He's been, and I hate saying this, he's been one of those guys that's been really, really good or just bad. And, I mean, the ERA looks fine. I mean, it should be lower for a guy like Dylan Cease of his caliber. And I've been waiting. I love Mick Abel a lot, but I've been waiting for that game, and I think this might be one. The Padres' offense has just looked horrendous, but there is a lot of pop in that lineup. And one of these days it's coming up where Mick Abel's going to have that negative regression because he's good, but he's not this good, in my opinion. I think he's been a little lucky. I think some of that stuff changes. I do like the over in this game. You know, we're not getting much support from the weather, but I do think if you're looking at the pitchers, these are guys we can attack. And it's been hot. They've used a ton of the bullpen this week. If you look at the Padres and what happened with Matt Waldron, he didn't pitch all that long, but they kept getting out of jams too, man. Double plays, line drives, pop-ups, strikeouts, just weirdness. But with the Padres and Phillies, I'd say take the over. Game two, this is another thing I like to target. Reds versus Red Sox. We have Nick Martinez versus Brian Bayo. The wind is out about 6 to 7 miles an hour. It's about 80 degrees. Why do I like to target games like this? Nick Martinez is coming off of almost throwing a no-hitter. Now, when we have guys that throw no-hitters, perfect games, I bet against them in the next game, I mean, almost every time. Because you're doing something that's out of the ordinary, and now you're coming back after that big matchup or that big performance and trying to make it happen yet again. And I can't tell you how many guys fail after the no-hitter, especially if they threw way more than 100 pitches or if they haven't been doing that all year. And I think it takes its toll. I'm sorry. Like some people may say, it's silly. No, I mean, go look at it. Go look at the second start after a guy's thrown a no-hitter, a perfect game, and see how they've done. Or, I mean, the first start after it. So I definitely want to fade Nick Martinez. And I like Brian Bayo, although he did me wrong in the last game. I'm going to tell you to take the Red Sox at home here. With this matchup, I like their bats against Nick Martinez. Anytime the Red Sox are facing a right-hander, I like their left-handed lineup, even without Rafael Devers there. They steal a ton of bases. I know on Tuesday, I'm kind of interested to see what happens with the Red Sox and Reds on Tuesday because as I looked at the stolen base kind of model, they were at the top of everything. So you had all the guys. Ellie De La Cruz is going to be up there anyways, but you had like 3 or 4 Red Sox players and another Reds player that I don't remember who it was, but very capable of stealing bases. They run a lot, and if you have pitchers you can run on, maybe you take a stolen base prop every now and then at plus 230 or whatever. It's just weird planning for a stolen base. But there are some games I think you could target. So I would lean towards the Red Sox there. Another one here. This is no weather. Kansas City Royals at Seattle. Noah Cameron versus Logan Gilbert. I mean, these guys are – I mean, Logan Gilbert's a ground ball merchant, right? He's just downright filthy, that mouth breather coming out and just laying it on you. And then Noah Cameron's just been such a pleasant surprise. He's just so good. The Seattle lineup strikes out so much. I feel like it's going to be chalky depending on what the line's at, but I love the under here. I'm hoping this game comes out at like a 7 and people stay away from it because I think both of these pitchers are capable of shutting down the opposing lineup. So I'm going to tell you to take the under with Kansas City Royals and the Seattle Mariners. Now, I am going to go to the Orioles and the Rangers here. We've talked about this. My guy Tommy Sagano going up against Nathan Eovaldi. And I think, what was it, on the Apple games, was it Ryan Spilbore that was calling him Tommy Sugar? But Sagano, he actually struggled in his last start, but he came out and kind of gave him the innings they need. It's weird how he works out of some jams sometimes, but he's getting hit hard. In the beginning of the season, he was fooling guys. The Orioles said they were going to go to a 6-man rotation to try to benefit themselves, or at least with Tommy. But like the other guys don't like doing that. Obviously, you want to stay on. If you're one of the main pitchers, you want to stay on pat every single time, every 5th day. You have your routine that you go through. But Sagano's been getting hit by a lot of bats, man. You're watching him put more and more guys on, and in the heat here that we're seeing, he's definitely scuffled some. So I think he's a suspect today. The same thing with the Rangers. Evaldi has amazing numbers. He could come out tonight and pitch an absolute gem. But my free play is going to be on the Orioles and Rangers to go over. I think both of these guys can be attacked. I definitely think both bullpens can be attacked. The Orioles bullpen, God, they come in sometimes. We had a month where they were shutting everybody out, and I think they gave up 3 runs. And then the first game after that, they all brought out the gas cans. Here's 3 runs from this guy. Here's 4 runs from that guy. Remember that Tampa Bay game where they had an 8-0 lead and blew it? So anyway, my free play being the Orioles over. Appreciate you guys listening. Definitely check it out. Like, subscribe. You can check out all the premium plays I got going on over the site. As I said, been hitting baseball at about a 60% clip. And in the WNBA, I'm hitting it almost, 64, 65%, somewhere around there. And, my favorite play in the WNBA on Tuesday was the under in the championship game for the Commissioner's Cup. So we'll see how it plays out. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another podcast.